All right, good afternoon, everybody. Wall Street Jesus here. The Tuesday Degenerate show recap. Well, I can't get the name right. I've been doing this for how long now? I still can't get the name right. But what's up, everybody? We'll talk some interesting. I haven't been on this Tuesday webinar in a while now that I think of it. Lucci was carrying the Tuesday show for a couple weeks, maybe even a month. But this came perfectly because for those of you who are members, we touched. I think Sunday was an important Sunday night members only webinar was an important webinar coming into this week for several reasons, but just because of the setup, the backdrop out there. And it's good now, even though I can shoot out videos and all that. It's good to talk to you guys here early week, midweek, just to talk a little bit of how things have been playing out. And, I don't know about you guys. We were briefly talking about this before we started up and I hit the record button, but they just, I don't know even a better way to put it, but they just pissed all over the setup I was trying to be patient for and looking forward to and waiting on. They pissed all over it today. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to offend anybody if it's a little too vulgar. I know very touchy people out there these days, but coming into today, here's how it went. All right. And again, those of you who are members will probably be able to relate a little easier because we had that Sunday webinar. But if you're not, I'll try to explain it as best as possible. We were coming into this week, okay, looking over sentiment over the weekend and looking over a lot of our key signals and what we based a lot of our decisions over. We came into this week thinking, okay, here's the game plan. This drop here was not only deep enough, but had a big enough impact on sentiment that it should allow the market to find some stability and hang in there, right? We were talking about that. There was a lot of capitulation into this drop, even though percentage-wise, it was nothing psychotic, but just with the noise around it. And I guess because of so many different facets of it, investors out there getting caught at the highs, hedge funds, retail, you name it, that this drop and the velocity of it was, significant enough to at least give us a temporary bottom. And more importantly, the way we look at it is allow weakness to be bought. Okay. So the best way to look at things, and this is how we were explaining it Sunday, the highest probability would be that we just trade in some sort of range here, right? So everybody's expecting a retest of the lows, right? That's where the majority of people are. That's why they got out here. Okay. So every time there's some selling pressure, right, and people start to get nervous again, and we start to see those sentiment signals light up and flash green, we want to look to be buyers into that and then sell into a squeeze, whenever we get it. All right. So that was basically the roadmap and the plan coming into the week. Now, on top of that, okay, because based on positioning, this was the highest probability. The next risk out there, in my opinion, was to the upside, not to the downside. All right. So in other words, chop, wide range, sideways action was probably the highest odds out there of taking place. I think one level down from that was a market starting to trickle away from people who puked into these, right? If they were long, they puked into this pull. And now as the market gets away from them, everybody who puked, everybody who slapped on massive hedges, everybody who participated in VIX, you name it, now would have to unwind that. Okay. So the further that the price action gets away and starts to look, legitimate in a sense, it can add fuel to the fire to the upside. Okay. People looking to put that exposure back on in itself would add fuel to the upside. All right. So there was a risk of that on top of what we were looking at. All right. So my game plan, and a lot of you guys, I'm sure, the same thing. Coming into the week, we were looking right for some sort of flush and get our sentiment signals light up green, short-term signals, and maybe see some signs, a little bit of flow out there to tell us there's some buying out there. Okay, that the smart money is starting to at least nibble at some weakness. Make a long story short, we got this yesterday. Okay, and look at this, right? It doesn't even look that bad, does it? Because of how, the volatility out there. But this felt bad. Whoever was around yesterday, this felt pretty bad. But interestingly enough, a lot of our short-term sentiment signals, they were stubborn. They didn't get there, okay, by the close. So my plan was come into today and any sort of weakness, or even if the market was flat for all I care, right? Any flow that I was somewhat interested in, I would get involved. Okay, like I told you guys, a lot of times you almost got to force yourself to buy something when you reach that point, right? Play the indices. You're better off than playing individual names anyway. And then fast forward, what happens? We come in this morning, before you could even take a breath and know what the hell's going on out there, you get this Trump tweet and whatever happened in the meeting with the Chinese and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, right, you get this. Okay? That was the worst case scenario for me. The worst case scenario. And that's why, Joey, you're out there, was talking to you earlier, Lewis too. We were talking about this. A lot of guys I know like to jump the shark. They like to be early because of this. So in other words, they buy something yesterday into the bell, okay, just in case they can't get their hands on something the next morning. And if they're early, they'll either decide to add, right? If they're early and there's further weakness, they were going to buy into that weakness anyway. So they'll add to it, or they'll leave what they have. And then when the squeeze comes, they're either not going to make as much money, or it becomes a scratch trade. And what are you going to do? That's part of the game. But this is the worst case scenario right here. Okay? Because you're waiting patiently, right? You're being smart about things. You're not getting involved in the noise back and forth. And while everybody, was leaning bearish off yesterday's close, you're coming into today looking to get long, right? You have that game plan, and then this script. I mean, thank God there was chopped the rest of the day, because this just killed my head the whole day. I was negged out, right? And you shouldn't be, but this really negged me out, because this was the setup I was waiting for. I'm not personally, I haven't done much swing trading at all in this mess. This is the only thing I'm trying to trade until we see, some improvement in the flow and all that jazz. But anyway, so that's what went on today. All right. And, we'll see what it turns into. Okay. The flow today, in my opinion, wasn't anything special. There was some buying out there. All right. So compared to the last couple of days, right, or a lot of this correction, there hasn't been much buying, very selective buying, if that. And we'll see what happens. All right. But there is, as we spoke about, and Charlie McElliott of Nomura came out with a note this morning talking about something similar to what we have been talking about, where, there could be some risk to the upside if there's positive news. You have a lot of people leaning towards the dark side as we head in to monthly expiration Friday. All right. Remember all that VIX call buying everybody was talking about? And all that, premium selling and all that stuff, bearish related. If they got to unwind that, there might be room here. All right. So, we want to keep an eye on that. Again, we want to keep the sweeper activity will tell us a lot about that. All right. The problem is that trade is gone, at least for me. Now, like Joey, like you were mentioning, I'm looking to be more nimble, and I'm just looking to get in the middle of things right now, more than likely on an intraday basis, more than anything else. Yeah, I SPY calls. If you play ES, a lot of people play ES off that setup. SPX, a few people play. Or Ani, you can play if you have confidence that a name will squeeze with the market, right? If you really like the setup there's been some flow, and you really have strong belief that if you get a squeeze, it will squeeze with the market, you could play a name. Yeah, exactly. That type of thing. The problem with names, you could get screwed, especially there's some earnings left, right? The banks, if you pick a bank, they may not go anywhere because there's been some heavy selling. So you know what I mean. So if you want to be as conservative as possible to make sure you catch the squeeze if it comes, and when it comes, obviously you want to be highly correlated to the indices. All right. So, but yeah, and that's the playbook right now, because here's bigger picture, larger picture here. This is what we were looking for. Okay. Like I said, here there was a lot of good that came out of into these lows. Okay. Every bull that was all in out here is gone. Okay. And not only that, you had some severe bearishness come out of this pull. Okay. Not to the point where those intermediate term indicators, which basically in simple English are major bottoming signals, they didn't light up. All right. And that's the ultimate goal of coming out of this, that maybe if we do FOTS around right here, and it doesn't have to break the low, it doesn't have to nip the low. It could, if you have a rally to like this point here and you have two big drops off some news, more than likely all those sentiments could be there with the noise that's out there right now. All right. So big picture wise, that's, if I could have it my way, that's the way I would want things to line up on an intermediate term basis out of this. Okay. And again, going back to the point of trying to, it's okay to be a little early, because if you're late, you really got to start chasing. Okay. We at least want to be ready early. Okay. We want to be ready early, because when those major bottoms come around, you don't need to nail the bottom. Like, for example, this squeeze, a lot of times you need to get a really good entry. Okay. But when you're around that major bottom, you don't have to nail that bottom to make money. Look what happened in December. Look what happened even in May, where you come out of some sort of little corrective phase and into an uptrend. There's a lot of money to be made as long as you're prepared, right? Because you think it's easier said than done. I guarantee you, if and when that time comes, there will be people shorting into that rally. Guaranteed. I can guarantee it, right? So, and you know what? If this rally fails here, let's say, for example, right? Let's say there's another pop and then we start coming down again because Hong Kong exploded or something. The next rally, people can't wait to get out of that squeeze. Just like December. So, it's easier said than done, but when we have those intermediate term indicators light up, that's the point of those indicators, to get us aware of what is close to taking place here. All right, so if you're in the same boat I am and they screwed you today a bit, don't worry about it, because there's something, at the end of the tunnel that's more appealing anyway. All right, and we want to just be around for that. And that's where, that's where flow explodes. That's where new leadership, new names, a lot of times that, you're not even looking at right now, will end up being some of the biggest winners. And that's why it's important to pay attention to, even when the flow sucks, excuse my French, like it's had, you want to pay attention to the names that continue to see buying, even if they're not moving, even if they continue to sell, right? It's irrelevant if you're in them or not. You want to at least take notice to what names are catching the flow, and how they're acting, how's the price action, where is a spot you would look to get in if the tide changes, and stuff like that. Because on the fly, it's very difficult to do. All right, anybody have any questions on any of the setup stuff? I know you already fired a couple, but anybody have any questions as far as, things to look for and so forth? And you're gonna see decent sweeper activity when this comes to an end. It's not gonna be where you're forcing yourself to, make a bullish case out of a name or out of the flow. It's not gonna be a roll where you're like, oh, well, it's a roll, but he's adding some money, so maybe I should get involved. There's, crazy action that comes out of these corrective phases. So we'll see. I haven't seen any signs of that yet. Today the flow was at best. So here's what the flow looked like today. All right, and listen, that's just one scenario here, and the reason why I'm giving you that scenario is because of how much puke there was into this low. Okay, that's why I'm giving you the scenario of a potential move higher out of this. All right, but if somehow, some way, if these lows hold, okay, and there's some sort of choppy uptrend that gets bulls involved and gets bears to capitulate, that can create a problem, right? All right, because the next trip down, if a lot of our short-term indicators are at extreme bullish territory, we're going to have some work to do, and the selling can accelerate. All right, but for now, the reason that pull was so good, just take the hedge funds, for example. You guys see that chart, right? We look at it religiously. They went from all in. They almost did their work already, right? They're almost out of everything they could possibly get out of. So that's the logic behind the selling shouldn't be as harsh as it was here. There's a lot less supply out there, right? Everybody who desperately needed to take down their long exposure, they already did it here, right? Everybody who really wanted to put hedges on and get protection because they didn't have it at the highs, they did it here. Here's where they pooped their bloomers, and we were seeing it on all the indicators that measure hedging and protection, right? Put the calls were elevated, everything. So that's the logic behind how, things shouldn't unravel, and there should be some temporary stability there. Tim saying, how do you determine the quality of the flow during OPEX as orders can be monthly? Well, yeah, it just makes it difficult, Tim. It makes it extremely difficult. The thing is like when monthly expiration, you see me checking open interest to see what's in there already. But the only way that, like, for example, we got to see even more action for it to be convincing. That's the simple answer. So instead of just one order matching up with open interest, we want to see them bomb something. You understand? So at least we're convinced now, okay, they're replacing some exposure that's expiring this week, but they're adding a decent amount on top of that. So that's, what I mean. That's what and here's the thing too. In this type of climate, you don't need to force the issue, right? You're going to get negged out like I am today. You miss a squeeze, blah, blah, blah. But you're looking at, you want to, the light at the end of the tunnel, right? The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is what you're really after as a swing trader. All right. The squeezes in between, in my opinion, they're just a way to allow us to make some money while a bigger setup is out there trying to set up. All right. So even though I've been doing this a long time and I get negged out, I told you it was negged out all day. You don't really want it to hang over your head because big picture wise is, again, we don't know when, but when this comes to an end, exactly, I got deja vu. We were holding this conversation in December when things were unraveling. Okay. When this comes to an end, you're going to be able to throw a dart at one of the 5 bull missiles that we saw that day and make money. You understand? And no one's going to believe in the rally. No one's going to want to be involved in the rally, just like it was in December. We may not be at that point yet, but ultimately that's the way, in all likelihood, it's going to look like when we come out of it. All right? Yeah, exactly. You want to keep the powder dry. You want to keep bullets, right? You want to keep the gun loaded. You want to save bullets. And, the first signs, listen, one thing I've learned too is that even when the flow's awful and the price action's awful, there comes a time before the markets even start to rally where they start to really focus and hone in on select names, and they keep buying them and they keep adding to them. And like I said, the stocks aren't even reacting. You're going to see like a big sweep in a name and it's going to go down off the order. And you're going to think that's where you hear people, oh, it's probably not even a bet. It's a hedge, but it's because of the price action out there in the market. That's all. But again, we went over this last Sunday. We want to continue to go over the biggest winners. Not all the time. They're not all big winners, but a lot of the big winners throughout my career all come out of these corrective phases and catch the best flow. Going back to the most recent one, the PayPal, the SE, the PAGs, all those names, they all end up being huge winners when they start attacking them when the price action is still sour. So whatever, you take a day-by-day approach, you stand ready, and you try to be patient enough and wait for it. So here's the action today. All right. And you can see just by the names, it's not really risk on flow, right? I mean, to me, the best looking sweep of the day was PCG. All right. So it's a utility name, September opening bet, I mean, it's a legitimate bet. We've seen larger, we've seen more aggressive where they continue to hit PCG, but it's a bullish bet. Okay, but if these guys are ready to get aggressive in risk on mode, is this going to be the top bet of the day, PCG? I highly doubt it, right? Here's another one, rig, Christ almighty. Like I told people in the room today, this rig will probably have to catch another 5 of these for me to get involved. Might have to be some put selling too in the mix for me to get involved. All right. Now listen, don't get me wrong. You look at this thing, and this thing's been straight up disaster. By accident, you may get a squeeze back to the 6s. Very possible, right? It's happened. You can see here. You're coming up on a 9er tomorrow. So, but the way I'm going to play it, because this is the last thing I want to buy, I'm going to wait to see if they continue to come back to it. And if they do, they got to convince me, they got to force me to buy it. That's the only way. You know, this is as bad as it gets. Energy's as bad as it gets. Look, here's all you got to look at, right? Where you rack your brain, all these energy names. Look at the OI. Oh, that's not it. That looks just as bad, though. Look at the OIH. This thing's going to be single digits. Single digits. You know? These things, you don't get much worse than oil right now. You don't get much worse than oil. Where else are we here? CLF caught some action. This is another steel commodities play. US Steel had some squeeze sweeper activity as well. Here's the CLF off a 9er low there. You know, this is not as bad as the rig, and you know, you could catch a trade out of this. You could see in the past off 9ers, right? You guys remember there were quite a few questions whether CLF looked good off the flow near highs. And if you remember me telling you, you don't want to buy this thing ever near highs because of how choppy it is. Look at it. So now you got a 9er low here, and you can see so in the 9ers in the past, as this thing really hasn't done anything, you can at least catch some sort of move out of it. All right, they piled them up too. There was more than this one sweep. This was the best looking order of the bunch. September 8th. But there was some decent volume. Yeah, it might not be, you know, worth a shot if you're looking for something to possibly play. You know, maybe wait, you get some selling the next couple of days. They sell it. I don't know how much lower you could possibly, well, it was up a little bit today. All right, where's, what else we got? This is a name of what I'm referring to keep an eye on throughout the correction here. SWKS. All right. Some of these semiconductors have acted well. Not only acted well, there's been some decent action in them. All right. If you remember, the semis were more scorched than any other group out there into the highs. All right. So they've taken it on the chin, like most things in tech. And you got a sweeper building a position in November calls. All right. So this is a perfect example of the type of action I'm telling you could be a little patient with and continue to watch. Okay. They may come back into weakness and add to it again. You know, so if you're not convinced yet, let them hit it again. This is the second time they've hit this line. Right, we'll look to open interest to make sure it's confirmed tomorrow that they added. Looks that way. And you can see, right, had nice bounce off the lows. The last time they did this, if you guys remember, was into these lows. Remember how hard they hit it? And the stock did nothing off the sweeps? You guys probably remember. You know, so, and then once you take your eyes off it, you get a nice move out of it. And these stocks can move too. This is not like rig. You know, SWKS, in my opinion, this thing didn't even get hot yet, even off this rally. This thing used to be a huge, huge mover. You know, huge mover. But there are a lot of names in the semi space that if they take them down a bit and hit them, like Texas Instruments doesn't even, it looks great. Look at this thing. Right? It looks great. Marvel, MRVL, all these things still look fantastic, even with this pull. So you can keep an eye, and you know they hold up better. I remember like PayPal. PayPal back, I remember it because I had a position. Back here, right? Here was the October correction. And then into Christmas, remember the market unraveled? Look what PayPal did. And I was sitting on a call position, a decent sized position with a good amount of time. So I wasn't sweating it. It was kind of frustrating because every time it rallied, I didn't sell it and it would come back down and I'd be in the red. So what happened? This rally, I sold it. and it didn't stop, you know. But here, missile after missile after missile throughout that consolidation while the market was in correction. All right, so that's the type of flow I was referring to earlier to keep an eye on, and you don't have to jump the gun because here's the thing: you're not looking. If you're looking for a quick trade out of that setup, that's fine. That's a quick trade. This is more of something you want to, add into weakness, build a decent sized swing position. You have some time to do that. You don't have to be worried about every rally and fade and all that volatility that drives you nuts with swings. The other action, and I think Dr. J pumped this one with the U.S. Steel today, MDLZ. This is a little different though. There's been a strong name, MDLZ. Look at this, finally got going, and it has been in this little corrective consolidation, whatever you want to call it. I guess maybe they're possibly playing breakout. This is not really my cup of tea, but you guys like to play this, this type of stuff. Big move, and here's your breather. Not much, not much of a pull, but at least doing some sideways action for you. Or same thing, keep an eye on it, see how the action looks. Maybe they go further out in time if they get a dip and they start attacking some Jan calls or something like that. All right, because here's the logic, and this is where you got to have a handle on the market, because otherwise you spin your wheels. Okay, if we're in some sort of downtrend corrective phase here, 9.5 out of 10 names are likely going to be impacted by the indices, what the indices are doing. So no matter how good a name may look, right? Maybe one day where that name is bucking the trend. Okay, if the market unravels to the downside, the likelihood it's taking that name down with it. Okay, or a name could have a great setup, right? There could be a semiconductor that's set up great. The other semis don't look too hot. If the other semis continue to go lower, the likelihood is they're going to take that good-looking setup and weigh on that as well. As a matter of fact, there's going to be money looking for names that maybe haven't broken down yet and start to lean on them. All right, so that's where stock picking becomes a real problem in this type of climate. Everything's so highly correlated to the indices, and they're moving because the volatility out there, they're moving up and down in a big way, all in packs. So in my opinion, individual names and individual charts, whatever edge you think you may have there goes out the window in this type of climate. And then once, even at the start of a rally, that usually is the case, right? They all move together for the most part. Some may move stronger and blah, 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 but they all move in packs. It's usually once after that initial squeeze out of a downtrend, then you start to see, then you can start to see some outperformance in select names that are catching flow, better setups, etc. But that's, you have to keep that in mind now in this type of market condition, because you're going to spin your wheels. You're going to spin your wheels. Ani, that was the point I was trying to make to you earlier, let's say one steel name looks good. The likelihood is if steel as a whole is not moving, chances are, that steel name is not going to get anywhere. So it's almost like you're looking to make a play on the market. And that's why if you want to take a conservative approach when you're playing for a squeeze, make sure, you're looking towards ETFs or leverage ETFs or SPX and all this stuff. Yeah, but here's the thing, Yossi, that's what I mean. Like Tesla has held up. Well, maybe you're just making that point anyway, but this is a good example. Like Tesla, first of all, is in a world of its own, right? There's no sector for Tesla. But I'm just giving you an example. Like, that reminds me like PayPal. PayPal was holding up well during that correction, okay? But it didn't go anywhere. That's the problem when you're buying calls, right? If you're buying something and you don't have ample time to sit through it, my point is the upside is capped, is limited there. They may hold up well, but that does you no good if you're in calls that expire next month. You're going to lose your money anyway. You rather the stock crash than do nothing if you're in calls. You know? So that's the point I'm trying to make. That's the point I'm trying to make. The biggest money, the easiest money, even though I hate to use that word, you're going to make in this game is when everything lines up and the wind is at your back. You know what I mean? That's where you're going to have the most confidence. That's where you're not going to get shaken out. That's where things go smooth, right? You get in, and then in a day or so, things are popping already. That's all when everything comes together. Like, for example, if you remember at the tippy top here recently, the total opposite was happening, right? Even though the market was going higher here, there were stocks that were getting beat up as the markets are going higher. You know, that's the most difficult time. This here is the most difficult time to make money and the most amount of risk in names. Because you're waiting for your stock to go. It may be in the market's rallying and it's not participating in that rally. And you're hanging on, hoping and hoping and hoping, and there you go, down the toilet bowl. This is the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. You know, usually from here to here is where the bulk of your P&L, you know, give or take things, a few for luck and all that jazz. But usually the bulk of your P&L is coming from, on the long side, coming from this move. You know, it's all that thing I keep telling you about, that funnel, right? As a rally gets longer in the tooth and sentiment heats up, right? You want your most risk to be right where you're taking the most risk to be down here, and like a funnel, less risk, less risk, less risk, less risk, until at the highs you have as little risk as possible, and you're obviously more concerned about what you have at risk than how much money you're going to make. But when the flow confirms, right, when you're seeing sweeper after sweeper and a gazillion different things and names you like, here's where you want to be most aggressive. And a lot of times that's where people are the most gun shy, right? That's usually how it works. The non-believers, I mean, I keep drawing over myself, but the non-believers are always up in these neck of the woods. Never down there. So that's what right here, like, oops, what is this now I just did? God only knows how I put that arrow on, but we'll leave it for now anyway. So that, you know, that's what we're looking for out of here. You know, we're looking for that. Like this rally here, in my opinion, sweepers aren't confirming any big move yet for me. You know, so let's say we get another down here and everyone's scared poopless, and then sweepers step up their game and getting really aggressive here. You know, that's going to be the sweet spot. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Cash. That's what happens. You know, you get frustrated a lot of times at the wrong spots, and you're right. Then you get gun shy when you can't afford to be gun shy, right? When you're supposed to open up and not be afraid to take losses. Yeah, exactly. you like my drawing. I told you I got better at it. You know, and that's how it usually happens. Like, I could talk for myself, everybody's different. You know, usually what happens for me is sometimes I miss it, but usually what would happen is I catch a squeeze play initially. All right, I get the squeeze, then the flow explodes, you know, and then that's where I start, you know, adding additional names to what I may have already. If they started attacking into weakness, you know, usually I have something already with decent time behind it if there's flow. But that's you can't be worried about these little rallies missing them and all. You know, the thing, like I said, the thing we want to do is try to catch a squeeze if we can to keep us busy, entertained, and make a little bit of money. That's the name of the game, to give us something to do while we're waiting. And if you catch them, okay, if you catch them right, you can make some money. You know, a lot of times what will happen is maybe you're a little bit early, and when that squeeze comes, that happened to me on the last pull. Squeeze comes, you know, you're not making much money, ends up being a scratch trade. But, you know, you're not looking to hit yourself over the head hard anyway. All right, what else? Anybody looking at any other names or anything? Any questions? Fire them away before we call it a wrap here and get ready for mañana. Oh yeah, TLT. A lot of people are asking me about this TLT. We talked about this a little on Sunday, right? When you have this type of thing where obviously we know it's a crowded trade, right? A lot of money coming into it, but it can stay like this for a while, you know? So what you got to be willing to do if you're looking to do something like that, where you're looking for a short, because that's basically, I guess, why you're asking. We've seen some put buying and call selling. You gotta be real with yourself and ask yourself what you're looking for out of this trade. You're looking for a decent wash. Make sure you have enough time and make sure you're patient enough, because the likelihood is you're going to be early. There's going to be some rallies. Very rarely do you nail the tippy top and it unravels for you. It can happen, but you can't have that frame of mind going in, because if that doesn't happen, you're gonna get knocked the daylights out of it, you know? So if you're looking to buy puts into this setup, you have to leg in, and you got to have enough time and be patient to allow yourself to catch a decent move. All right, because more than likely it's this: down, fake rally up, down, fake rally up, down, and then once you give up, yeah, you know, they're tough. They're tough trades, man. They're tough. Sometimes you get lucky. You know, if you have a different way of managing your risk, you know, where you're stopping yourself out of some sort, I don't know. But I don't really fool around with I don't fool around at all with those type of trades. You know, because a lot of times, here's the other thing that could happen. We don't listen, the put buying, we don't know what the put buying really is all about. Okay, there's a lot of long money in TLT. They could be buying puts to protect their profits off this run. Doesn't mean they're betting on TLT to blowing up. You know, so forget the put action. Sentiment's hot, and you're off a niner there. That tells you there at least should be something like this, at the least, coming. You know? Yeah, call writer. There was a guy who wrote calls today, or gal. You know, so that's a little different too, though, than shorting the name. You know, because he's getting paid. Even if TLT does this, he's going to get paid. You understand? So, you know, they're tough. You just, yeah, I see the allure here. Don't get me wrong, I see it. But you gotta be wired a certain way to be able to catch these things nice. GC has a similar setup, maybe not as hot. Gold, you got a niner here and confirmed now. But look here. Remember, you guys probably remember we were talking about this. Here's a legitimate niner right here into hot sentiment. And look what she did. You know, she worked it off sideways. I mean, that tells you a lot about the freaking trend for that to happen. But just, you know what you're getting into. Know what you're getting into. You know what I mean? Not easy. And you see what makes, again, you guys, I know a lot of you guys get sick of this, but just to prove my point so you don't think I'm just some perma bull trying to scare people out of shorts, you see the difficulty in shorting in this environment, right? I hope, especially some of you who are fairly new at this game, see the difficulty in shorting, okay? You had a little room here to make some money, and if you were looking for something bigger, good luck sitting through this right now. Again, you got to be a special bird in this game to, make a nice stack on the short side, position-wise. All right, because put it this way, if that's your game plan, you're going to be looking to short rallies, right? You're going to be looking to short rallies. That's what you got to do. You can't short into this. You're shorting into this, you need your head examined. You're going to be broke before you know it. You can't wait for weakness to short in this climate. Intraday, yeah, day trading, all right. You're playing the momentum. But look here, right? You're shorting off this day here. They made you feel good for about 5 minutes. Tough, man. It's tough. You need to be shorting rallies and being able to manage your risk in a special way. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing. All right. If that's not your game, don't attempt it. Paper trade and pretend you're doing it. Okay. Or send me your money. I'll tell you I'm shorting stuff for you and I'll give it back to you after the market's at new highs again. All right. But your best bet is just to be patient and wait and sit through it and wait for things to set up on the long side in what you're likely a lot more comfortable trading. Be patient. You hear people use the word discipline. That's discipline. You know what I mean? That's discipline. Being able to sit around when your bread and butter is not there and waiting for that setup. If you can't do that in this game, you're behind the 8 ball. You're behind the 8 ball. Anyone to look at it? I got my beautiful chart here. Nobody wants to look at some names? Look at this. Look at this. Come on. Where's my Ichimoku diehards out? This is not Ichimoku, but come on, Cash. You got to give credit when credit is due. This is a pretty chart right here. That's right, Yosti. This is a pretty chart. Look how clean. Like, I just want to stare at it all day long. No? All right, so we'll see. We'll see what goes on here, No chasing. Oh, George, were you asking me about SIG? You got earnings there. I think it's all mostly earnings flow for now, and we'll see what it looks like after earnings. Earnings are close enough now. Ooh, a niner there. I don't know, earnings. Oh, September. What do I think this month? Jesus Christ. Retail right now is tough. Retail's tough. I tell you another name I kind of interested in, but I can't get myself to buy it even with time yet. The Stitch Fix. You got a niner there now. I said, oh, I'm going to wait for the niner. I can't do it yet. I want to see more action there. There's a lot of selling. They were moving them around last I checked, Cash. They were rolling down strikes in the SIG because they're underwater on them already. Yeah, SIG, the call buying was rolling down tree from what I saw. In other words, that buyer was obviously too early, and that's, you know, what they have to their advantage. They got a lot of money in their pockets. All right. Which a lot of us don't like to do. They do. They did it with PAGs. Remember PAGs? They had to not average down, roll down, it's called. So if you remember with PAGs, they started buying it too early and they were underwater. So what they do is they close out that position and they come down a few strikes for a higher delta. So when it goes, they get a bigger bang for their buck. So they're not too far out of the money. You know what I mean? So they're adding money to bring their strikes down. Even the pros, guys, even the pros, you know, are very often early, especially in corrections. Very often. You know, that's not what makes them pros, nailing lows and highs to the penny. You know, let's see. Apple had a big day today off that news, huh? What? Wait a second. What's this? Is that right? Apple reverse like that? Wait a second. That can't be right. Yeah. What happened to this chart? Maybe a trade went off there or something? No, look, see? 248. It must have been one of those bogus trades at the end. Yeah. But no, Apple, you know, had a big day today. I wouldn't chase it. I wouldn't chase it. You're gonna have trade war headlines move that thing around. How's Amazon looking? Now you mentioned Amazon. Let me see. I like Amazon better. Right? Tim, an Amazon little missile here? That wouldn't be nice? Yep. Oh man. Well, finally off a dip like that? That's a nice spot here. Without a doubt for flow. Without a doubt for flow. Right off a 9 or 2. We'll see. They're rare, but we see them, Amazon sweeps, especially off pulls. The problem is Amazon doesn't really pull that much, you know. What else? You know what other name you guys like to trade? Facebook. Well, it's been small though. Facebook had a little bull flow yesterday. Today they were these little mosquito put sweeps off some headline. But Facebook had a December bet. It was only like $250,000 though. But I would keep an eye on Facebook. Again, into the weakness more than the strength, guys. More than the strength, you know. Snap into any dip, they keep buying it. Not to sound like a broken record, B, but the problem is the market with all these things, right? If the market is heavy and choppy and not really moving to the upside at all, as good as Snap looks, it may just linger here. You know, it may just linger. Kind of, yeah, like look at SNE. That's another name they continue to buy. See, but if you're going to buy it, the dips, that's where they start buying it. But this thing could come right back down here off a market pull. You know, Sony is a name I think you got to try to be patient on, Cash, and buying pieces throughout this correction here for as long as it lasts. Because, you know, if you let's say you're buying it here and this market, you know, retraces a bit, the likelihood of Sony is coming back down to here, you know? Yeah, buy some with time and piece into it. But this thing all year, this name, really good looking action all year. I owned it twice this year for trades of really good looking action. If you remember, Cash, they nailed the lows. Remember they nailed the lows? Initially, they nailed the exact lows right into here. Is there an activist? Oh, so maybe that's what it is. I don't remember hearing that. Maybe that's what all the flow is. You know, another name you can eye. Several of us already traded it a couple times. I still have some October calls. I've been trading the equity, and I got a position in October calls. Nothing big, but maybe I'll add to it. Chewy. We already know there's a Sharpie involved here. Melvin. And, you know, this thing continues to catch flow. But same thing, guys. I wouldn't, unless we start to see better price action and better flow, just be careful chasing, you know, the highs green, because they come right back down. You know, this is just the volatility here moving back and forth. You know, so the goal, again, easier said than done, but the goal is for sweeper activity towards the bottom of the range. And if you want to trade it, you understand, you got to trade to the top of the range. Dan Loeb, third point, is bullish on Sony. Oh man. So third point. That's probably who's been buying it all year. Wow, Cash. I didn't know that. Thanks for the heads up there. Wow. So yeah, there's not a lot of names right now that are targets like that, but you got Chewy, you got Sony, SWKS is getting there. You know, you got some names like that. You got some names like that. W. Let's see W, Tim. Wow, look at this. A lot of them, right? A lot of these big movers, right? Dead on the bottom here. Yep. We just need the action now, Tim, you know? We just need the action because who knows how big of a squeeze or if they even have lower to go. We need the action in these things. We definitely need the action in these things. All right, anybody have any other names before we call it a wrap? AMD, up here is tough now. Up here is tough. Like usually, if we were in bull market mode, you say, all right, you got a little pull off this pop. But, you know, like I said, the market, if the market's heavy, this thing is coming down to fill that gap right back down here again. You know, down here, just like this last time, if you see some action, right, it lines up with sentiment for a trade, you know, then you got a shot. Or even you could buy it if it stays in the range like this. They have been buying stuff with time, right? So if you're in this type of range for a bit, you look to build a position at the lower end of the range here with some time. But you don't want to chase for the breakout. Not much is going to break out in this climate. Beyond and Roku, you could count on 3 fingers. Not even Beyond anymore, but you know what I mean. You know, Roku's one stock. VST, that's a utility, right, Trey? Oh, no, that wasn't a bull risk reversal. No. It was tied to stock. It was some sort of straddle. I know what order you're talking about. I think that was yesterday, right? Yeah. But I like it. It's a utility, I think. So this is interesting to keep flow. Keep an eye on flow down here. It's been a nice buy down here, right? I think you owned it a couple of times. That's why you like it. SLB was tied to stock, Andy. SLB was tied to stock. This is another dog. Look at this. Halliburton. Look at these stocks, man. Look at these stocks. Tree, how long have we been talking about these oil stocks? Look at them. Oh my God. How bad can they get, though? How bad can they get? The money that was lost in these things. Jesus. A lot of money lost in these things. It looks like they're all going to zero. What about like XLE? Is that's still up in the 50s? It looks a little better than the others. WLL. Let's see. Oh my God. This thing is 9. What? This thing was like 70, right? 60, yeah, 60 something. Havana, devastation. Yep, 9er. Maybe find some stability there. Reverse splits, that's what you're probably going to see, right, Steven? Like, but here's my question. Like OIH, can that go to like $3, $2? They're going to reverse split it, right? They have to. You can't have a major ETF like this at $3. It has to reverse split. You can't, once it breaks 10, you can't, certain funds can't even buy it anymore. They can't, they probably reverse it at that point. Devastation. Devastation. What else? Anybody have their eyes on a few software names? I'm trying to think of any hot tech names. Coop. I haven't looked at that in a while. Let's see. Like a rock up here. Look at this. Wow. So strong. Yeah, Coop still looks great. Team. What do you think, North? I can't get myself to buy it just because there's not even a pullback on it. Looks so good. Yes, Stephen, we spoke about that. GDS. I hope it hangs out here a little bit. Some of these Chinese stocks look incredible. Incredible. Icon raised his Cloudera stake, Cash is saying. So Icon anteed up on the CLDR. He's still buying. Cheap enough. Pins. Let's see, that caught a little action. Yeah, strong. Little 9er high there, so maybe chop around a little bit up here for a breather, but looks good. Looks really good. That's why some of these IPOs that were dead and buried, not the gassed up ones like the Uber with all the hoopla behind it, but maybe the Pins, the Chewy, some of them end up playing a bigger part coming out of this correction. There's probably some IPOs out there that we don't even know about that end up, they start trading options and could be animals. How's that Zoom? I haven't looked at that Zoom. That still looks great. Right now, they're all just breathing. They're all just breathing. ZS, still finding buyers up here. Gee, God. SVMK, that came back. Yeah, that looks good still. TLND? Oh, TLRD, you're probably saying, right? TLND? Let me see. Software. I don't know this name. Oh, what is it, Latin American? Yeah, I think it's Latin American. That's why maybe it got beat up. Interesting. I'm going to put it on my screen, Tree. STNE. That's another underbelly cloud name. Wow. They all look decent. They all look decent. What was that other one that we saw recently? Was it AYK? No, AYX, right? No, that's not it. That is one, but that's not it. This one right here, I got on the bottom of my screen. Hold on. It may not even be software. It's some sort of tech. What do I do with it? Oh, but here, do you guys know this one? What is it? ALVR or something like that? AVLR. This is a software name. I never even heard of it. Look at this thing. You guys know this IPO? Unreal. See, the problem is these things don't even pull back much. They get you chasing highs. Oh, HQY. Is that the one I'm thinking of? That's not it. Health Equity. This is medical software, I think. There was another one with an A. Hold on. I got it down here somewhere. AA. What did I do with it? Norse, don't you like this? Aren't you the one that like Now? There's been some buying in that name with time behind it. You think it could come in a little bit more? Possibly, right? Probably more market than anything else. 260. Yeah, I mean, that was the niner right there, I think, 260. 260 was the niner. But yeah, there's a lot of good-looking names out there, guys. We just need buyers, and we need a better market climate. That's all. Shop, except for shop, right? This is just, it doesn't matter, does it? Nothing matters to shop. Just goes up every day. I can't, I mean, this is getting stupid, no? In a correction, too? This thing probably needs to get hit before this little correction shakeout gets over and done with. These things have to get hit. You can't have a stock go like this without a shakeout involved. You know what else has been doing good? That Shack. That caught a little action. Look at this Shack. Yeah, now forget it. Shack is done. Yeah, PAYC. And you know what's a little, this is another good looking name, powerful. Look at it. You guys know this name? Pays. I don't know if this is software though. I think the sleeper software name, it's Chinese though, is the one that Steven and I were talking about. This GDS. This is the sleeper software name, I think. You know, you got some decent analyst coverage for a no name like this. If it ever gets hot, could get funky. But it's Chinese, so obviously you got that added risk to it. SWCH is the US counterpart to SWCH. Let's see. My God. See what I mean? This is 15. This looks great. Yeah, this looks great. So you see, yeah, I wouldn't chase them, but on dips, especially if you see action in these things, especially if you see action in them. Like, remember this one? You guys remember this one? Steven, you remember it? No? RNG? The software stock nobody knew about, nobody was talking about? Finally caught some action, and look at her go. Wow. Big move. Well, Melly Martin, you had that Argentina debacle. What? That thing didn't even get hit, though. That's all that happened to Melly was that? That's it? This is off the Argentina crash? This little hiccup? Oh, my God. Nobody wants to give these things up. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to sell these things. Nobody wants to sell them. Yeah, this is Melly. Nuts. All right, guys. Here's another name I want sweeper activity in so bad. Work. I want decent action in this thing so bad. I really do. Because this is one, if they start buying in this mess, I'm definitely going to look to build a position in. You know, down here, laying dead. I like that. So we'll see. There's been, small flow, nothing to get excited over. Nothing to even get myself to force myself to buy it. This one looked good too. We were saying, if you guys remember, we were saying the same thing about this when it was laying here dead, and now she's moving already. Crowd strike. All right. Well, we got names. That's for sure. Here's another one. I'm just looking at my list that they've continued to buy. NVTA. We talked about that already. They continue nonstop flow. It's been quiet recently, but prior to maybe a week ago, this thing was catching some really good-looking action. Melly upgraded to overweight. Yeah, for some reason I thought the Melly got hit hard. Like, Tree, remember this one? GGAL, the bank in Argentina. Look what happened to this thing. Cut in half. Yeah, I'm long gone. I'm long gone. I'm long gone. Buy the dip. Maybe there's action that comes in here. I don't know. I mean, I guess Argentina's in bad shape, though. Who knows? But that's why I thought Melly got beat up. It didn't get beat up. This is nothing. That's not even a burp. That's not even a burp. All right, guys. As always, appreciate you stopping by. At least we know the game plan. Nice and easy. Be patient. Try to make some money and entertain ourselves, but not get hit over the head in the meantime. And then when they come and the riffraff's on the other side, that's when we lay down the hammer. Have a good night, everybody.